In starting my business, I knew that I needed to get capital. I needed access to funds so that I could build out a store and buy ingredients and get started, things like that. I didn't have resources myself, so I needed to go to the bank. I went there and I said, well, what do you need to know in order to help me start this business? Their reply was, well, we need to know what you need to know. We're not experts at baking. We're not experts at running a retail bakery, so you've got to educate us about what's going to happen. And a business plan is something that is very organic, just like a business. Things change all the time. Adaptations need to be made, things stricken from the record in terms of what your goals are if they're off. It's the overall general playbook of what's going on in the business. You have to be able to demonstrate to people, listen, I want money from you so I can spend it on these things, and this is how we're going to make the money, and I can pay you back with all the money that we've made and we brought in.
It's so critical to know where every dollar is going and how important it is to know the cash flow of the company. And what too many people focus on is the profit of the company. You could be making a lot of profit, but you can be out of business in a week because you don't have the cash to pay your employees, to pay your suppliers, and your customers aren't paying you in time. So there's a lot of management of those cash flows that is really critical to the success of a business. And going through that process of working through the bank, it was getting our financial statements in line, getting them clean, and presenting to them with the proper amount of accounts receivable to support the line of credit that we were looking for. And as a rule of thumb with the banks, it's usually 80%. So if your accounts receivable are $100,000, they will, on average, loan you $80,000 in a line of credit. So it was a long process of getting to that number and getting the bank to actually admit that to us so that we could figure out and see how we can adjust our company to support the numbers needed to get those bank loans. When I was first getting going, I had the job, but I didn't have any money in the bank account. I don't have a rich family. I really had no resources to go out to get funding. I didn't know anybody here. My first idea, which I think a lot of people's first ideas are to get funding, was to go to the bank. I mean, they have big buildings, they have a lot of money. They'd be a great place to go ask for some money to start a company. And I toured a couple of them and talked to their business bankers, and I told them my idea. I showed them my business plan. And I walked through it all, and every one of the bankers said, this is a great idea. And then the next question was, do you own a house? I said, no. And they said, well, we don't really have anything to give you money off of. I said, well, what about the business plan? Well, the business plan's great, but what happens if the business fails? They are not entrepreneurs. They are not risk takers, and I figured that out very quickly, that they don't want to take risk. They want to be backed by cash. Now, the only other thing I could come up with in a way of raising money or getting capital was through credit cards. So I sent in about 20 different credit card applications, and about 2 weeks later I got 15 credit cards started rolling in, and I had about $45,000 in available credit to me along all these different banks. So basically I spread out my risk over a bunch of different banks, and I had this available credit to me, which was actually more than I was making at the time, which was pretty amazing. And that was the way I funded the company. Was off credit cards and personal debt. It was the only way I was able to pay my suppliers and keep things going. It was extremely high interest rates, so it was an expensive way of doing it, but it was the only way I could have done it. Even to this day, I still have to personally guarantee all of the loans that we're getting, and the banks really won't get away from that.